Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch a lovely morning here in the Ozarks. Just the weather is just, it's just almost perfect morning weather. It's supposed to get pretty warm today, but it's that time of the year that it's getting warm. But the sky is perfectly blue. I'm going to flip the camera up so that you can see it. Yeah. No chemtrails, not yet anyways, but a lovely morning, and got a lot of stuff to do today. Want to let you know that I finally got the part in and got the internet, the satellite internet fixed. That's why we hadn't been able to do any live streams, so we'll start those back up again. My wife is doing live streams with me over on Locals. Of course, we hadn't been able to do it for the last 3 weeks or so because of internet problems. But now we've got that fixed, so we're going to start doing our midweek live streams over on Locals together. And then also I'll be doing a live stream over on Saturday nights like I've always done before. But if you want to be watching our Locals live streams, which are different, they're much more laid back, much more personal. My wife talks about, she talks about health. I talk about natural health. We talk about things that YouTube just doesn't allow us to talk about. And so if you want to start watching those, you need to be a member of Locals. There's a link down in the description below. I also make videos for that platform every day, separate videos. So you can go over there and watch the Locals videos where I can say whatever I want and I don't have to worry about being censored. No code words or anything like that. Anyways, so the whole protest stuff, it's like I said, it's getting worse. If you read or pay attention to what's being reported, it's almost like reports out of a battle, some type of war scene where, they'll talk about how the police, the state police, or whoever it is pushing them back, and the next thing you know, they're retreating, and the protesters are refortifying their positions, and that is exactly what the reporting is talking about. But it is expanding, and it's getting a lot worse. Many cities are now feeling this. In fact, there's reports of Antifa doing rioting up in Canada also. There's been buildings that's been destroyed, damaged, library up in Portland, I believe. Several other, things of people being injured, attacks. There's been, of course, most of this is pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, but there have been some pro-Israel kind of counter-protesters, and those have clashed, and there's been injuries. So it's getting worse, right? And I've told you that was going to happen for a while. It's going to just continue to build and build and build, because I believe there's a bigger plan here than just to disrupt things with protests. At the same time, Joe Biden yesterday said that immigration is great for this country. That it's good to have immigration. It's good to just open our doors and let people through. And it's interesting that they always kind of twist words. Immigration isn't a bad thing. Yes, this nation, for the most part, it's originated as of being filled with immigrants from around the world. But what they do is they twist that, of course, as you know, that, well, immigration's a great thing. Yeah, legal immigration, where people are coming here and being vetted and going through a process, and they're doing that. They're willing to go through this process. They're willing to spend the money and go through the process because they have this deep desire to be American, to be part of the American dream. When you just make it easy, when you make no requirements whatsoever and just say, you know what, if you just step across the border, you're good, and then we'll give you a bunch of free stuff. Well, then yeah, you're going to get the low lifes of the world, and that's exactly what's been happening. Look at what's going on in Europe. Have any of you been paying attention to what's happening in Europe over the last few years? They're saying now that on average in Europe, that about 75% of all rapes are being done by immigrants. There are places in France, England, Paris, London, that you don't even look like you're in Europe anymore. It looks like you're in some town in Africa. And that is exactly the direction that America is going. In fact, there was a little video of some kind of Muslim imam stating that within just a few years, that Muslims will be the dominating group of people in Sweden, that they will have taken over Sweden in just a few years from now. So this is the path America is facing. And so many people see it, but nothing's being done about it. And it's sad because we live in this world where, or at least this country, where everyone's either on the far left, or they're sympathizing with the far left, or they're too afraid to say anything against the far left. And what we're left with are folks like you and I feeling like we're the minority, feeling like we are the last few people on the planet that believe in traditions and morals and biblical values, and that there are definite right and wrong, that morality isn't relative, and that, you know, right and wrong isn't, you know, based on your perspective, and the truth is based on what your truth is. We folks like us, we don't believe that. We don't see things that way. I was speaking to my daughter on the phone actually this morning. Well, not our oldest, but second oldest daughter. And we talk every morning. Early in the morning, I call her and we talk before she goes to work. And she was just expressing her frustration. You know, she's young and hardworking girl, and she was expressing her frustration of how there's like no one like us anymore. It seems like, you know. I mean, I know that that's not true, and she knows that that's not true, but how it's so difficult to find other people, to make connections, build relationships with people that think like we do, that believe like we do. You know, you can't, you know, it used to be when I was growing up, when you and I were growing up, it was, oh, you know, you're a Christian, you go to church, you know, something like that. Oh, you're conservative, you're a Republican. Oh, okay, that's good. We're alike. But anymore, it's not that way. I mean, did you see just, I think it was yesterday, a day before, it was this week. Excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. It's driving me nuts. I'm trying to not cough. That the United Methodist Church has voted to allow LGBTQ, XYZ, ABCD clergy to be in, you know, licensed ministers with the United Methodist Church. Or watching church after church after church organization, all of them, except more and more worldliness. I mean, that's all biblical, of course, but the point is that you can't just say, well, this, you know, this person goes to church too, and we're alike, or, you know, this person's a conservative. We're watching conservatives bend their knee and bow down to this liberal garbage. And it's difficult. I hear that from many of you when I talk about how you need to go out there and build tribe, build community. You say, there's no one like me around me. I understand, and I'm sympathetic to that. I think that there's probably are people, but it's so hard to find them when you live in areas where they're so rare, you know. It's like, you know, a hunter. Think of, for you folks that are hunters. You know, you go out in the woods and you're hunting deer, and you're in an area where they're plentiful. And it makes the hunt real easy, right? It's not that hard to find deer. And you go to an area that they're extremely rare, that there's maybe just a few deer in this whole region. It's unlikely you're going to find one and take one home. And so that's the same concept. And, you know, the easiest answer, which is probably the more difficult thing to do, is to just move. And I know some of you right there, you're just like, why does he say this stuff? Number one, he's going to have all these people move to good areas. And number two, he just thinks it's so easy to just up and move. He doesn't understand how hard that is. I get it. I've moved a few times in my life. I understand how difficult it is. And right now, it's really difficult because the housing market and interest rates and all this kind of stuff are awful. They're just awful. But in the end, and I know this is harsh, it's really, it boils down to where your priorities lie. You know, what are you willing to sacrifice for your lifestyle? You know, if you have children, if you're raising a family, if you want to survive all of this, but yet where you're living, well, I got a good job, I got a good retirement, you know, we live in a nice house, things are convenient, you know, everything that we need and want is just down the road from us. I mean, it's so convenient where we live. It's a really good area, really good neighborhood. I mean, it's filled with a bunch of crazy liberals. Everybody's transgenders and you know, woke left and all this kind of stuff. But it's a nice area, you know. Well, it's about your priorities. I mean, I don't know how to sugarcoat this. Okay, I'm not attempting to be offensive, but I don't know how to sugarcoat it. If you value your beliefs, if you value your children's innocence, if you value surviving what is happening, not what's to come necessarily, just what's happening right now. Illegals by the millions pouring into this country, radical woke left, you know, burning cities and buildings and stuff to the ground, all of this stuff, the homelessness, the drugs, you know, you can't take your children anywhere because of the vulgarity that they're gonna be exposed to. If any of those things and more are important that you don't want them in your life, then it's quite possibly the best choice is just to get out of there. You know, start looking around at you know, if you want, you can look up maps of voting. You know, that's one, you know, the more conservative the voter, that may be a better place to move to. You can also just, the easiest way is just to find rural areas. Now, not every rural area, of course, is good and conservative and biblical and moral. Majority are, but not every. But you need to find those kind of places. And yeah, it's tough. You may not be able to live in your nice fancy cities. You may not be able to have the job that you want, you know, making the level of income that you want so that you can live the nice life that you want. You may have to leave and move away from family and friends. You may have to find a very downsized little piece of property where you actually have to put some work into it, and you have to go out there and you have to have a bigger yard to mow and gardens and animals and maintenance on your property, put a fence up. It's not easy, okay? None of what I'm suggesting is easy. I get that. I'm not naive. I'm not foolish. But what I'm telling you is that it may be the most important thing you can do when it comes to your preparations. I mean, you have to start asking yourself, where do you see this all headed, right? Where do you see it going? At what point do you see it hitting like the rock bottom, the worst thing? Are you comfortable living where you're at, going through what you think's going to happen? And what if what happens is much worse than what you think is going to happen? Are you okay with living where you're at when those really bad things happen? Are you gonna just hope that you're lucky and you time it just right and you move out just before that rock bottom point? Is that what you're hoping for? I don't know. I mean, people can still move. People can still sell their homes and people can still buy places. Happening to this day all around me. Just talked to 2 people in the last week that's purchased properties in my region, my area, and you know, moved out of areas that they didn't like. It's going to get worse, folks. It is getting worse. It's getting worse every day. It's like, you know, it's like the meme. You know, every morning you wake up and you look out the window and you're like, okay, what chapter in Revelation are we doing today? What chapter in the book of Revelation are we in today? it's going to get worse, okay? And living in a place that makes you much more vulnerable, that makes it much more difficult to survive, that endangers your family and your children to what they're exposed to and everything. If you're living in one of those kind of places, then you need to get out. It's plain and simple. I don't know how else to put it. And I don't know how to tell you how to get out other than just do it. You know, each case is different. And yeah, you may have to downsize. You know, we went from living in a, 2,400 square foot house to living in a 350 square foot house. So it's doable. And you need to be making those moves, because you may have lots of beans and freeze-dried food in your closet, but if you live in the middle of where all these places are burning to the ground, it's not going to do you much good. You need to be getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.